welcome to Barrett the Terrible. Today we're going to called the Aerial Allure featuring the new Mawile from Lost Origin with the tempting trap attack, locking the defending Pokemon from retreating on your opponent's next turn, and also causing it to take 90 more damage during your next turn. We get to use this as a fast attack for only one colorless using a basic Pokemon, helping us do a one-hit knockout against any Pokemon including a V-Star or even a VMAX on our next turn with Jumpluff. So Jumpluff has the Fluffy Barrage ability which allows it to attack twice each turn with either spinning attack or Gravdrop. That means you get to do 180 extra damage with Jumpluff immediately after using your tempting trap. It is important to note that our opponent can erase this effect by simply evolving or switching the defending Pokemon. To block our opponent from playing switch cards, we have our Misfortune Sisters from Lost Origin, helping you look at the top 5 cards of our opponent's deck and discard any number of item cards you find there. We're also playing 2 copies of Avery, 1 Temple of Sinnoh, and 1 Crushing Hammer for the extra disruption. For the draw spot, we're playing 2 Cinccinos, 1 Radiant Venusaur, 1 Marnie, and 2 Brunos. We also have 1 Energy Search and 1 Raihan to help us use the scroll, 2 Online Rods and 1 Rescue Carrier to revive our Pokemons, 1 Manaphy for the bench barrier, 1 Scoop of Net, and 1 Air Balloon for the switch, 4 Vapor Pass, 4 Level Ball, 2 Quick Ball, 1 Capture, and 1 Hisuian Heavy Ball for the basic summon. We also have 1 Great Ball, 3 Incense, and 1 Ultra Ball to search for evolutions, 1 Leon, and 1 Choice Belt for the damage boost, 6 basic grass and 2 basic lightning energies. So that's all for the deck list. Now let's go for some gameplays. Okay, let's go for our first game versus Palkia Vstar with Kyurem. So the new Kyurem VMAX does a lot of damage, 60x for each water energy discard, if I'm not mistaken, from any one of your Pokemon. You also get to attach a water energy from your top deck. If you discard it with your ability, you get to discard a 1 card from the top card of your deck. And if it is a water energy, you get to attach it to any one of your Pokemon in play. I think it only allows you to attach it to your water Pokemon, if I'm not mistaken. If it allows you to attach to any one of your Pokemon, it would be quite interesting though. I'm not really too sure. I haven't looked into that card yet. It would be quite fun to build a Kyurem VMAX deck, but it is a VMAX, which means if your opponent knocks it out, they are taking 3 prizes, so I don't think it's not really that worth playing a VMAX anymore. Vstar is more of a big thing right now. So Gudra Vstar is probably the best one, the best Vstar yet. Palkia Vstar is still pretty good. Arceus Vstar, Dialga is still pretty good. Dialga not so much though. I wouldn't, you know, it's okay I guess, but it's not as fast as Palkia and not as powerful as Gudra. Because Gudra, once you have it attacking in play, then it's gonna tank a lot of damage. It's gonna stay in play for a long time. You actually get to attack 200 damage over and over until the end of the game, and all you need to do is just heal tiny damage, use the ability, you know, heal with your Crystal Cave, Lucky Ice Pop, and you actually get the win quite easily. You even get to attack with your Cramorant, Sableye. It's broken as hell. If you have a one-hit KO strategy though, that's why Kyurem is so good. Kyurem actually gets to kill a Gudra with 1 hit. Palkia, not so much, but Palkia can actually prepare more damage for your Kyurem to do a 1-hit knockout against the Gudra. Palkia actually is a turbo card as well, so early in the game you can attack with your Palkia and then slowly charge up for Kyurem to attack for the knockout, you know, later on in the game if you want to do fast knockouts against Comfey, against Cramorant, against any other 1-price decks, you know, any other 1-price cards that they have in the active. So Rapid Freeze is a pretty cool attack that allows you to attach as many water energy from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. Kind of the same as Leaflet Dance from Celebi, Chilling Rain if I'm not mistaken, the old Celebi, that allows you to attach freely from your hand grass energy as you like. Is an attack, same thing as this one, is not an ability, it's not an effect. Well, it is an effect, it's an attack, right? So that means you actually have to pass the turn using that move, which is not really too great because you actually have to draw enough energy for you to do a significant amount of attachment within a single turn right before using the attack. So they're doing an escape rope. So there are a lot of ways to counter Mawile's effect, my bad. So Tempting Trap is not quite powerful in attack, but it's a very interesting new effect that allows you to do 90 more damage to your opponent's to the defending Pokemon on your next turn if they don't switch the active if they don't evolve their active Pokemon, you get to strike for 180 extra damage with your Jumpluff. Jumpluff gets to do so much more thanks to Fluffy Barrage helping us attack twice. That means you get to do 90 more damage twice. That means 180 extra damage. And if we do 90 with our spinning attack, if we can do 90 with Choice Belt, we actually get 180 extra with, with the 1 energy attack, we get to do 180 base. And 180 more is equal to 360, which is more than enough to kill a Gudra Vstar, more than enough to kill anything off the board, a VMAX, Duraludon with, well, not if it has Single Strike Abomasnow in play, but you get the point. If they have Gardevoir and the Lake Acuity for Gudra as well, I don't think it's that easy. Gardevoir actually only guards your, it only defends, reduces damage done to your Pokemon by your opponent's V cards. So if you are playing a one prize attacker, Jumpluff is a one prize attacker, it is not a V Pokemon, that means Gardevoir's ability does not work against Jumpluff. Same goes for Clefairy, Lunatone, Regigigas, etc. So anyways, let's just focus right now on Palkia Vstar. The current game is actually quite intense because we are up against a proper meta deck. Playing Palkia Vstar with Kyurem, and we actually get to draw with Radiant Venusaur right now. So Radiant Venusaur is quite tricky to play. You actually have to empty your hand to be able to draw. We are not playing Snorlax for this list, so it's actually quite tricky. We have instead our control cards. We have Crushing Hammer, Temple of Sinnoh, Avery, and Misfortune Sisters to help us slow our opponent down by a little bit while we actually trap them in the active with our Tempting Trap, and also helping us do extra damage with only 1 energy. All we need is 1 energy on our Jumpluff, and also Mawile to help us do extra damage on the next turn, to help us do a one-hit knockout in 2 turns, because we actually need to waste 1 turn using Tempting Trap first. Mawile needs to waste an entire attack. You actually need to waste 1 whole turn just to use Tempting Trap to prepare for your next turn's knockout, which is actually kind of a waste of an entire move. But if you get a knockout on your next turn though with for only 1 energy with your Jumpluff, it would still be a good thing. It can actually help you buy back the time and help you win the game much faster if you can actually collect a big knockout. If you are up against a one prize, I don't think you have a good chance of winning unless if you attack fast with nothing but Jumpluff. Don't use your Mawile at all if they play cards like Lunatone or Clefairies, because all you need to do is attack with spinning attack over and over as many times as you can, and then rescue Carrier Rod, retrieve those Pokemon, shuffle them back, and then keep on reviving your Jumpluff attack over and over until you draw all 6 prizes for the win. Because if you can attack fast against a one prize, you win the game. If you can collect your first prize early, then you win the game. So don't use Mawile against one prize unless if they're playing high HP Pokemons like Stage 2, Stage 1, with more than 120 HP, because we only are able to do 120 with spinning attack. We can do a little bit more with our Gravdrop if they are attaching more energies, a lot of energies to their Pokemon. If they play like 1 energy attacker, Malamar, I don't think we're doing a lot of damage with the Gravdrop. We're doing basically the same amount with our spinning attack because we're doing 50 more for each energy attached to our opponent's active. So if they have only 1 energy attached, we're only doing 60 with our Gravdrop. Might as well just play spinning attack for 1 grass energy. Gravdrop is a bit more heavy. The attack cost requires 1 lightning and 1 colorless. There's gonna be an Ariados though. An Ariados for the next set. I'm not sure if it's gonna be out for Silver Tempest, but it's out for Paradigm Trigger, the new Japanese set that actually allows you to increase your opponent's V-Star Pokemon's attack cost by 1 colorless. If you have that Ariados in play, it is a stage 1. It doesn't need to be in the active, so it's kind of it's a bit different from the old Gumi from Sun and Moon, which actually requires it only works if your Gumi is in the active spot, as opposed to your Ariados, which is kind of a stage 1 Pokemon that works. It doesn't stack though. The ability doesn't stack. That means you only get to increase by 1 colorless on your opponent's V-Star Pokemon's attack. You cannot increase more than 1 colorless. So instead of Wondrous Labyrinth, we have Ariados now. That only allows you to apply that ability once. You cannot apply it more than one time per game. Emperor's Eyes. So they have Empoleon against, you know, basic decks. If your opponent plays Cramorant, Comfy, Empoleon is gonna help you a lot. So this deck is like a proper meta deck. It's like crazy. It's on steroids. It's just fucking insane. They got Melanie, they got Palkia, they got Kyurem against Gudra, they got Empoleon against Lunatone, Regigigas. It's just fucking insane. So they got 3 prize already, and we did our Tempting Trap on the last turn. They did not retreat, and I think we played our Misfortune Sister to discard a Rod and a Quick Ball at some point in the game. So discarding the Rod means they cannot actually retrieve the energy and Pokemon back. And we are playing Avery to discard the bench. That means if they have energies attached to the Kyurem, if they discard the Kyurem on the bench, which has damage counters on it, they are removing energies from it as well. That means if they run out of the Melanie, if they don't have enough Melanie in their deck, if they, you know, the final few copies, if those get stuck in the prize and they don't have enough energies to attack, then they actually are stuck having to pass a turn, not doing anything. That means we actually get free attacks with our Jumpluff, doing 120 damage at a time. If we have a Choice Belt with Leon, we actually get to do a little, much more with those cards. We don't have a Leon for this list. So this game, we actually did not play any Choice Belt or Leon. We have, I think, 1 more copy of Misfortune Sister and more Cinccinos in play, more Cinccinos in the deck. As you can see, we have 1 Minccino in the discard pile right now. So we are playing 3 copies, but the final version, eventually I decided to only have 2 copies of Cinccino in the deck just because it's good enough and we actually have Heavy Ball to get it out. If we don't get a Cinccino, it's still fine because we have Bruno, we have Marnie to rely on to help us draw cards into our hand, and also Avery not only helps you do the disruption, it helps you draw 3 cards also, which is good enough because sometimes all we need is that 1 evolution and energy to help us do spinning attack for the knockout after we done our Tempting Trap on the last turn. So all we need is Level Ball really. Level Ball for Mawile, Level Ball for, well, VIP for Mawile for our first turn, and then Level Ball, Quick Ball for our Hoppip, and then evolve with Incense, Great Ball, Ultra Ball, or even Level Ball into our Skiploom. Use the ability to transform into a Jumpluff by attaching an energy from your hand, and then we got Spinning Attack for the knockout. So here comes Empoleon. I wasn't expecting them to attack this turn already because we just knocked out the Palkia, and somehow they managed to just attack with the Empoleon because they got Kyurem. So they got Melanie and Kyurem helping them attach up to 3 energies in a single turn onto the Empoleon. 1 energy from the hand, 1 energy from the top deck, and 1 energy from the discard pile. Because they're playing Oranguru, that means they get to put an energy into the top deck with Primate Wisdom. There we go, here comes the VMAX. So if they are playing a VMAX, you need Choice Belt or Leon to collect the knockout. And, you know, initially when I first built this deck, I was kind of focusing more on control because I know it's not that powerful. I know there are a lot of counters against Mawile. I was kind of expecting our opponent to play a lot more switch cards. But for some reason, decks these days, decks in Standard, don't actually have that many switches. They have more like air balloons and, you know, I don't know, free retreat Pokemons, I guess, to kind of substitute for the switch. And if they have those cards, they cannot actually retreat because Mawile actually blocks them from retreating. And then on the next turn, we get to do 90 more damage, 180 more damage with Jumpluff, which is a lot. So it's actually pretty good right now. Mawile is actually not bad. We actually do have a we do have Choice Belt for this deck, but no Leons. My mistake. Okay, we're gonna do 180 damage to the Empoleon. Not quite enough to knock it out, but if we get our Rescue Carrier, we can actually collect the knockout on the Empoleon, which is only 2 prizes. We need 2 more prizes to win the game. So all they need is to attack with something else after the Empoleon to win the game. If they don't have any more attackers though, they're done. So we are actually discarding their bench right now with an Avery. You'll see that we actually drew an Avery with the Cinccino. And we forced them to cut their bench down to 3. They're playing so many Pokemons though, so Manaphy is helping us a lot for this game, a lot for, you know, most games actually, because Greninja is really annoying. Greninja for Lost decks with Mirage Gate, Greninja for Palkia decks with Star Portal, lets them do a easy snipe for extra 2 prize early in the game if you don't have a Manaphy benched. That's why we have so many level balls to summon our Manaphy, heavy ball as well to get it out from the prize. If you don't have Manaphy in play early against a Greninja deck, you're done for. Especially if they play like V-Union with the Frostmoth and also the Radiant Greninja, it would be terrible. Okay, so had we gotten a Leon in our hand, we would have been able to knock out the Empoleon this turn, but we're not playing Leon for this list. This is one of the earlier, one of the earliest builds, and we just decided to put in more control cards. I think we have 2 Crushing Hammers, an extra Path to the Peak, and also 1 extra copy of Misfortune Sisters. I don't think we have any Brunos or Marnie, so no supporter cards except for Avery for the draw, and, you know, Misfortune Sisters. So they got 4 cards left in the deck. If we can play another sister, we may be able to deck them out. Well, only if they have all item cards at the top 4 cards of their deck. If all of those 4 cards are not items, or at least if any one of them aren't items, then I don't think we can win that easily because they have 2 prizes left. All they need is 2 knockouts. But they actually don't have enough energies, so it was actually quite surprising that they don't have any more energies because we actually discarded the Rod with our Fortune Sister. So it's actually I was quite surprised that I won this deck. Like, it's crazy because it's crazy meta. They got everything in there. They got everything. Empoleon, Kyurem, Greninja, Lost Sweep. Crazy. And they just conceded because they got no energies. It's a huge surprise though. I did not expect that. So don't concede early. Like, anything can happen, honestly. If you know that, you know, your opponent is gonna win because they have like a lot less prize than you, stick it out. Just stick it out, because even if you lose the game, at least you would learn something from it. You would know what not to do the next time you play the game. The next time you are stuck with the same situation, you'll know what not to do and what to do, what's the right thing that you should be doing, and how to counter, how to bring yourself back from the hole, bring yourself back out of the darkness, because sometimes you dig a grave for yourself and it is still possible to come out of it sometimes, but most times if you make even one tiny mistake, you're out. So don't make any mistake. I sometimes make really stupid mistakes, and if you do that, you can't win the game anymore. I'm sorry, it's that tight. Like, if you are tired, if you keep playing the game, you get tired and you tend to make mistakes more easily. So I would recommend you guys to just go for a break and take a rest. If you lose too many times, chances are you are tired instead of the deck is not good. The deck may actually be good enough as it is. Like, if you're building decks, if you enjoy building decks, like me, I enjoy building my own deck. And if you reach a point where the deck is like, you can't actually do enough, there's nothing more you can do about it, and you just keep losing with the same deck. Like, there's nothing more you can do. You just need to take a break. Like, you need to take a break. If you don't, you're not going to get any epiphanies. You're not going to be able to upgrade the deck. You're not going to be able to get any wins. You're not going to be able to think straight to be able to make the right decisions during gameplay, because gameplay actually does determine the win as well. It's not just the deck, it's the gameplay as well. What move you choose to take, what cards you choose to play, when you choose to play them, the arrangement, the sequence is all very important, as we all know. But, you know, the deck obviously, you know, if the deck is good, it makes everything much easier, but obviously it still comes down to the gameplay. Ultimately, gameplay is still very, very important, and you cannot actually afford to make any mistake. Okay, right now we're up against a Radiant Steelix deck with Bascule Legion. So this is the new OHKO Madness insane strategy that allows you to kill anything off the board with your finishing strike, I think. I forgot the attack. Finishing hammer, I think. I forgot. So Steelix does 30x damage for each energy you discard from your deck. And you actually have to discard everything and leave only one card in the deck on your next turn. That means on the next turn, you are decking yourself out. You are drawing the last card into your hand. And if you don't, if you don't shuffle cards back into the deck, if you don't, put cards back with Pidgeot or somehow, play a Marnie at the right time, if you don't have any cards left on your next turn, then you are actually dead. So Steelix needs to retreat in order for them to play Bascule Legion. Bascule Legion actually helps you shuffle back all energy cards, all basic energy from your discard pile into the deck and do 20x damage for each basic energy you shuffle back in this way. That means you not only get to do a lot of damage with that Pokemon, you also get to do, you also get to save yourself from getting decked out. 20x is not as much as Steelix. Steelix is doing 30x plus 60 base damage. So Steelix is a lot more heavy. It's doing, a one-hit knockout for sure against any Pokemon. But if you play enough energy in the deck, if you have, for example, 20 basic energy in the deck, you actually need more than 20 because you're gonna have to expect to spend a few attached in play and have a few expected in the prize, a few in your hand as well. That means you can't actually have all of them in the discard pile. You actually need, for example, 25 or maybe 30, 35 in the deck for you to have at least 20 in the discard pile for you to play, Upstream Spirits, which is Bascule Legion's attack for 400 damage at least, knocking out any Pokemon off the board with one strike for 0 energy. So that's a very interesting attacker. It is a stage 1 though. I don't like it just because it's stage 1. I prefer Volcarona V just because you get to play Thornton. You get to do Thornton to switch between Volcarona and Steelix. And we actually played a Steelix deck with Magnezone helping you attach freely metal energy from the top 6 cards of the deck to your Pokemon in any way you like. So that means if you have nothing but energy after playing your Volcarona, if you do I forgot the attack again, but if you shuffle back all energy cards, all basic energy into the deck with Volcarona, obviously you need fire energy for the attack, but if you play like 1 or 2 fire energy with Clara and Training Court, you actually get to retrieve them quite easily. So if you shuffle back all the metal and fire energy into the deck, you actually get to attach them after, on your next turn, you get to attach them freely with your Magnezone onto your Steelix or any other basic Pokemon on your bench later in the game, and then play a Thornton to switch into your Radiant Steelix to play your Finishing Hammer a second time, or even a third time by playing another Thornton or a Clara to even bench it a second time and then retreat with your Volcarona or any other Pokemon. You can actually attach full 6 energy with your, or even 5, because you may actually have like a few fire energy in your, at the top 6 card of the deck. So maybe at least 5 energies into play. That means you can actually retreat with the energy attached with Magnezone, and also from your hand you can actually attach to your Steelix to attack, doing another knockout full on, doing full damage like 400 plus 500 even if you have enough energies. Obviously you need to play a lot of basic energy if you're playing Steelix, because if you play too many special energies, if you do like Aurora, capture way too many copies of them, you may actually end up not being able to do enough damage late stage in the game, because your second strike with Steelix, if you're doing Clara, is not going to do as much as your first one. If you do Upstream Spirits or Surging Flames, I just remembered the attack. Surging Flames to shuffle back, not enough basic energy. So if you don't have enough basic energies for your second strike, you're not doing as much damage. That means you may not be able to collect your knockout later on. Okay, here comes a Shadow Rider VMAX. We actually won against the Radiant Steelix because I think we did a Zacian knockout. And we discarded the energy on the Steelix as well with the Crushing Hammer. So they got pretty annoyed and they just conceded. We actually trapped them with our Mawile. That means we get to do 90 extra damage on the next turn. So Zacian is resistant to its grass type. That means we are doing 30 less with our spinning attack. So we're doing 130, well, 120 because 90 plus. So 120 damage with our spinning attack. Each strike, we actually get to strike twice thanks to Fluffy Barrage. That means 120 times 2 is enough to kill off the Zacian thanks to Mawile. And they don't actually have any switch cards in their deck. They do have Irida and Adamant to search for anything, but they don't actually have the switch. They have Air Balloons, so that's why Mawile is so good right now, because people play free retreat Pokemons like, you know, what's it called again? Custform or any other free retreat. I can't really think of anything. Togekiss is a free retreat Pokemon as well. Flying Pikachu. So they play more free retreat Pokemons and Air Balloons than they do with Switch and Escape Ropes, as we saw with the Palkia deck as well. They only have one Escape Rope in the deck, which is quite bizarre, honestly, because I don't think they even have Air Balloons. Maybe they're priced, never know. Or maybe they have it in their hand and they just decide not to use them, Air Balloons, because it's pointless. And right now, we are up against a Shadow Rider playing nothing but the VMAX, which is pretty interesting. They have Luminion to search for the supporter card, so they can either search for Adventurous Discovery or Research or anything like Caitlyn. I think Caitlyn works really well with your Shadow Rider because you get to, you know, you get to put any cards that you don't need right now into at the bottom of your deck and then draw new cards, you know, draw the cards that you may need. If you're playing like Stage 2 evolutions, Stage 2 supports, Caitlyn would actually help you do the Rare Candy evolution much easier with your Shadow Rider, just because you're drawing cards, you're drawing a lot of cards with your ability. That means Caitlyn is going to help you arrange, it's going to help you draw the same amount of cards that you are choosing to put at the bottom, because you get to choose a lot. Unless if your opponent plays a Marnie, if they play like a Judge, Roxanne, then you actually have much less cards in your hand. But Training Card can actually reverse the effect quite easily, so we have Training Card for Shadow Rider, not to worry. The bad thing about Shadow Rider is, I suppose, Galarian Moltres, but I don't think we see a lot of Moltres in Standard anymore. Mightyena, I suppose, is the only counter that is worth playing if you're doing a one price. Especially Zoroark. If they do a big charm though, Mightyena needs a choice belt. There's gonna be a new Medicham. So Mightyena, which is a darkness free energy attacker. Medicham is the same, kind of the same thing. If you have exactly 4 cards in your hand, Medicham, which is a psychic type, has no energy, does not require any energy for its attack cost. So it gets to attack for free energy, doing I think 80 damage plus 70 more. I'm not sure how much. 80 damage plus 70 more, I think. So it's doing a one-hit knockout against a VMAX. Pretty sure. I'm not really too certain right now, but I think it's doing 80 plus 70. For 3 energies. But if you have exactly 4 cards in your hand, you get to play that attack for 0 energy. So it's basically the new Mightyena for a Psychic type. If they play fighting Pokemon, fighting VMAXs, or fighting V-Stars, you can actually play your Medicham with your Zoroark box to hit for the weakness for a one-hit knockout against Decidueye, against, you know, not Cleaver, because Cleaver is actually a ground, is a rock type. So Cleaver is out, but maybe Urshifu's, you know, the single strike, rapid strike Urshifu's, you can knock them out with Medicham. The new Stage 1 Medicham from Paradigm Trigger, I think. Is it Paradigm Trigger? Pretty sure. Not sure if it will be in Silver Tempest, because you never know. Cards get cut all the time. I'm pretty disappointed in that. So the special Sword and Shield set is going to come out in January, and that set is going to include all the cards that got cut, including those gym promos that I mentioned. Ursaluna V, Kyogre V, those cool cards is going to get, you know, is going to get released in January, which is pretty interesting. Ursaluna is quite cool. It's a new high HP rock type Pokemon. I'm not sure which, rock or ground, which allows you to do take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks, thanks to its ability. So it's essentially a little bit higher HP than Blissey, because it's 330 plus 30 damage buff, 30 defense buff, which is equivalent to 260 HP. And if you do like Cape of Toughness, your opponent needs 310 damage. They need to do 310 damage to kill off your Ursaluna. But it has a weakness though. Blissey has Dunsparce. I guess Ursaluna has Stone Energy, but it doesn't have Weakness Guard, any form of Weakness Guard. We do have Mesprit. Let's not forget about Mesprit, but Mesprit requires 2 other basic Pokemon on your bench. If you don't have all 3 Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf on the bench, that ability doesn't work. And it's quite a cool ability though, because it guards all of your Pokemon from weakness. But your opponent can quite easily do an Avery or a Boss to knock it out. If you don't play enough carriers, you can't actually, you know, keep that ability anymore. If you need some other Pokemon on your bench for the next turn, like a stage 1 support Bibarel, you may be forced to discard one of the Uxie, Mesprit, or Azelf, one of the Lake Spirits, and that means discarding them is gonna help your opponent do the weakness, is gonna give your opponent the weakness on the same turn after playing the Avery. That means, you know, you either are not able to draw cards with, you know, you're forced to either discard your Bibarel, which means getting stuck on the next turn, not having cards in your hand, not being able to do anything, getting stuck, or getting hit with the weakness. Okay, right now Shadow Rider is coming. We actually got 90 extra damage already, but it's not enough because we're only doing 150 with spinning attack. That's why we need Leon and Choice Belt for this deck. This deck cannot go without those cards. Leon is helping us do 180 base for each strike, and we get to do it twice thanks to Fluffy Barrage. And we're doing a VMAX knockout with 2 turns. In 2 turns thanks to Mawile, and they did not switch the Pokemon, they evolved it too fast, so we actually get to do Tempting Trap for 90 extra damage. So the scroll is very important for this deck as well. If you don't play enough scrolls, I don't think you stand a good chance at winning, because you get to do a lot more damage with the scroll. 220 damage if they need only 2 energies to attack, like Palkia. You're not doing a lot, but you may be able to collect the knockout later with only 1 strike with your spinning attack, if you do have a Choice Belt, and then you know, strike something else for extra damage. We don't have a boss for this deck though, so we can't actually collect the knockout by doing a boss against the Pokemon that we damage later in the game. But we do have other control cards like Misfortune Sister to disrupt our opponent and force them to focus on, recovering from the disruption as much as trying to draw their prizes. And also preventing us from drawing our prize fast enough. So it's a lot that our opponent needs to think about. We're giving them a lot to manage, because if they don't, if they play too many Pokemons on the bench, if they don't have enough rods in the deck, if they can't revive those Pokemon, they're done. If they don't have enough attackers, if we discard the right item cards from the deck with Misfortune Sister, they're done as well. The main reason Misfortune Sisters is there, though, is for us to discard the switch cards, right? We want to be discarding Switch Escape Rope or Scoop Up Net from the deck, so that they actually cannot retreat, they cannot switch the active, they cannot erase Mawile's effect. That means we get to do 90 extra damage on the next turn if they don't switch. Retreating doesn't work, so that's the good thing about an attack. Your opponent cannot retreat, but they can still evolve, which is terrible. That means we need to wait for them to evolve. It's okay though, all you need to do is attack with your Jumpluff first. Don't bench your Mawile too early, because your opponent is gonna know what you're up to. But sometimes you may have no choice but to, if you get a Great Ball early. At some point, I actually played only one copy of the Mawile and realized that it's not working, because if you are featuring a deck off of the Mawile, might as well have at least 2 copies. I really wanted, I really thought 1 copy would be enough, but eventually the game just decided to cave in on me. There was a point where I won a lot of games with only 1 copy of Mawile, but the more games I play, the more I realize that it's not really, it's not consistent. Because if you don't get the heavy ball, we only are playing 1 copy as well. If you get stuck in the prize, you may not be able to play it at all throughout the entire game, and that's not what we want. We want to be featuring this deck, we want to be using the power of Mawile at least once per game. If we don't get to, it's still okay. We got our Scroll of the Skies, we got our Gravdrop to fall back on, we got our Raihan as well to help us play that attack. So it's not too bad, but we would at least be able to do it once. If we play that attack twice or maybe even 3 times using Rescue Carrier, it's 1 energy though. It's 1 energy, that means you get to use it fast, you get to use it turn after turn, it's a turbo attack, right? It's very easy to attack with only 1 energy for either Tempting Trap or your spinning attack for big damage. So they have a Palkia on the bench, which is very disturbing, because if they attack with that Pokemon, it's gonna be quite disruptive, because they are forcing us to draw 3 prize and then 2 before collecting the final knockout, collecting a VMAX knockout for, drawing the last prize by doing a VMAX knockout, because we don't have a boss, we don't have Escape Rope. This deck is quite difficult just because of that, but the reason we are playing a Scoop Up Net is because we may need to scoop up the Venusaur at some point in the game, because it's gonna be useless at some point. Because if you are drawing the Cinccino, by the time you reach a point, you're gonna reach a point in the game where you have a lot of cards in your hand, because you are drawing over and over. Early in the game though, you are gonna get stuck with 0 hand. It's quite likely for you to get stuck with very few cards in the hand early in the game, because you are discarding and playing a lot of things. You are playing a lot of item cards, benching a lot of things, evolving, attaching energy. You're playing a lot of cards from your hand, even the supporters. That means you're left with nothing. You're quite likely to be left with nothing in your hand early than later in the game. So we may need to scoop up the Venusaur to replace it with a Menifee if they play Greninja, because Menifee is so important. If we have only 1 Cinccino in play, it won't be enough. That means we need 2 Cinccino and a Venusaur to start. And if we don't bench the Menifee, they may just snipe our bench. So if we don't scoop up the Venusaur, we would have only 1 bench spot left if we want to do the Menifee. That means we can only bench, another Hoppip. We cannot actually play the Mawile anymore, because if we do the Mawile and bench have only one Hoppip in play, you know, one Skiploom, Hoppip, or Jumpluff in play, our opponent can quite easily do a boss to knock out the Jumpluff, and then on the next turn, we cannot attack because we don't have a second Skiploom, we don't have a second Hoppip on the bench in play for us to evolve into the Jumpluff. That means we cannot attack. So that would be quite terrible. That's why we need the Scoop Up Net. That's why we don't have an escape rope. Sometimes, you know, the deck just doesn't allow you the space for you to play your boss escape rope, which is kind of crucial cards that you need to win the game easily. But I don't like winning the game easily. I like a big challenge. I like the tough challenge, right? I like to be tough and win the game by using my wits, not by using power cards like boss. Okay, we got Cinccino. We played a Bruno this turn. And let's just hope they don't get the switch card. They do have the Inteleon on the bench for the search. If they play Irida, they can search for an item as well. So fingers crossed they're playing air balloons instead of the switch escape rope. Because if they do that, they are slowing us down by a full turn. We are basically, you know, they are basically erasing the effect and, you know, wasting one. They are forcing us to waste our entire last turn. Essentially doing nothing, right? We are essentially doing nothing previously. Ice Rider. So I don't think there's any ability that allows you to transfer energy cards except for Bronzong, which is quite annoying because there used to be a Golduck break that allows you to transfer any type of energy in play, but it is basically a stage 2 Pokemon because you need to, well, a stage 1, well, a stage 2, right? Because Golduck is a stage 1 and you need to evolve the Golduck if you want to play the break, the Golduck break. So a stage 2 ability for a transfer is quite bad because Bronzong is a stage 1. I guess that's the trade-off, isn't it? If you want a transfer that allows you to, if you want a full transfer where you get to transfer any energy in play, I think it's only basic energy though. I'm still not sure about Golduck Break. It's an expanded card, so I'm not really familiar with that. But it allows, if you want that advantage, you're gonna have to evolve it an extra stage. Whereas if you want only to evolve into a stage 1 Pokemon, if you want an easy evolution, easy ability, a fast-paced ability, then it only allows you to transfer your metal type, right? It only allows you metal energy transfer. Okay, here comes spinning attack for the knockout. We just need to draw out the choice belt. Oh, we have a Leon in our hand. So we just need to play the Leon and we got our first kill. Knocking out the first Ice Rider for the 3 prize. And now we just need to focus on killing the Palkia and also the Ice Rider. Palkia is going to be a bit of a hassle. Because we need 2 turns just to kill the Palkia. And if they have the Vstar, I'm not sure if we can win that easily. Because they have 4 prizes remaining. We need 4 more turns to win the game. And they also need 4. And since they're attacking first, they should be winning, right? Unless if we can do like a one-hit knockout without the Mawile. I don't think we have the... I don't think we can do it though, because we already played the Leon. If we have our scroll, if we use Gravdrop with Leon on the Palkia, we actually get to do 140 times 2, right? 110 damage with Gravdrop plus 30 from Leon times 2 is equal to 280 exact damage, which is enough to kill a Vstar, any Vstar. 280 to kill off the Palkia for 1 in one turn to draw 2 prize allows us, you know, 2 extra turns, 2 final turns to collect the final 1 prize by killing off the VMAX. Because we don't have escape rope boss, we actually are forced to kill off the VMAX. If they choose not to evolve though, we may be in trouble, right? They can actually choose not to evolve the Ice Rider until the very end of the game, just to erase Mawile's effect. We got Raihan, we got another Hoppip, that's great. So Inteleon is slowly killing off the Menifee. We need to watch out for that, because Palkia is going to eventually help them do a double snipe to collect an extra prize with Greninja, which is terrible. So we have to watch out for Menifee. We do have our scoop up net, so we need to scoop it up and at some point re-bench it, because if we don't, they can quite easily snipe and attack on the same turn with Greninja. If they knock out Menifee with the damage counters, they can use Moonlight Shuriken to collect 2 prize. Using Star Portal. Star Portal, really annoying ability, because you never know what Pokemon they're gonna play. They may just do Empoleon, they may just play Ice Cube, Greninja, Starmie, anything. Never know what they're gonna pull off. Crabominable V against a Vstar. Crabominable is like, any OHKO card is good right now because Gudra is swallowing up the format. Gudra is basically dominating the standard format, right? So if you can have, you know, a 1 prize OHKO deck, or even a Crabominable, a V card, a V OHKO strategy, it's gonna be a really good deck. Because anything that kills a Gudra is gonna be really powerful. Obviously, you want to be making the deck strong enough against other matchups as well. So you need to think about adding other cards to counter 1 prize decks, to counter Palkia Vstar, to counter Vstar, other VMAX Pokemons as well. So make sure you think about that in addition to your OHKO strategy. So against Gudra, we can use our Mawile with the Scroll of the Skies to help us collect the knockout in 2 turns, killing off the Vstar with our Gravdrop. But it is a lot that we need to pull off though, and even then they have the Cramorant to easily kill off our Jumpluff. So Cramorant can actually do early knockouts as well. By losing only 4 cards, if they go second, they can collect their first prize early on the first turn already. So I don't think we can win against a Gudra deck that easily. Or any other lost decks for that matter, because Cramorant is just way too fast. Jumpluff is only able to attack on the second turn after evolving into the Skiploom, and we may not have enough level balls. We may not be able to evolve that fast just because we only have our Cinccino for the draw support and not enough supporter cards to draw those evolutions out. So I think if you're up against decks that you don't have a high chance of winning, you can actually switch into the control version of this deck list. You can actually focus on controlling your opponent, by playing your Avery, Misfortune Sisters. You can use those cards to trap them, to basically buy yourself extra time or extra turns and delay the game until you get the knockout, right? So that is basically the thing the strategy to go for if you're up against decks that can draw their prizes fast, because there are still ways to counter that. Especially 1 prize, if they are drawing, prizes way faster than you are, Reggie Gigas as well, you can actually think about playing your Temple of Sinnoh, Crushing Hammer. Obviously, Crushing Hammer doesn't work for Reggie Gigas decks, but if you do Crushing Hammer against decks like Clefairy, you may actually, reduce damage by a little bit. It's not doing a lot, but, Crushing Hammer against decks that require Twin Energy, like Ditto decks, Magikarp decks, Spiritomb, stuff like that, they may require more Raihans in a deck or more Twin Energy or Double Turbo to recover them. Temple of Sinnoh as well. Temple of Sinnoh cuts down, basically shuts down all the Aurora energy against Reggie Gigas. We only have 1 copy though, but we can actually still disrupt them a lot. So Misfortune Sister is able to discard well, Choice Belt, they don't really need Choice Belt though. You can actually discard their Rods if they are playing a Reggie deck. You can discard their Heavy Ball, you can discard their Switch cards, you can discard a lot of things. If you're lucky, you may be able to cut them off their resources. Because most times, Reggie decks only play 2 copies of each Reggie. That means they need a lot of Rods and a lot of Claras in the deck to retrieve them. If they play more Rods than Clara, then your Misfortune Sister is going to help you a lot against, for the disruption against Reggie decks, including your Avery. If you play Avery and Misfortune Sister against Reggie, I think you have a high chance of winning. Against Lost decks though, I'm not too sure. Like, Lost decks are way too broken, honestly. They got Sableye for the free snipe. Free damage counter placement is just insane. And then they got Mirage Gate. Oh my god, it's crazy. We got Manaphy though to protect ourselves from Greninja, Amazing Raikou or Kyogre. So Manaphy is very, very important for this deck because we are playing low HP Pokemons, level ball cards, 90 HP for everything. For Jumpluff, Cinccino, Manaphy. Well, obviously Manaphy doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much HP you have because you are guarding it, guarding your bench. Obviously, they can quite easily snipe it for the knockout. Eventually knocking it out with Quick Shoot. And then, as we said earlier, play the Greninja at the right time for extra prizes. So we played our Avery, forcing them to discard 2 Pokemons from the bench. I'm guessing they're not going to discard the Sobbles because they probably need the Shady Dealings / Quick Shoot. I think we actually did our Scoop Up Net this turn as well. So scooping up the Manaphy would mean they need to place the damage counter all over again. And Manaphy gets to survive even longer. We're basically extending the shelf life of Manaphy's bench guard. Ice Rider VMAX. So it's more of an Ice Rider deck because they don't actually have a Palkia Vstar. I think they have the Vstar prize and they actually chose to discard it. They discarded the Palkia. So I'm pretty sure they're only playing 1 copy of the Vstar and the basic Palkia. That means it's only there for the support more than as an additional attacker. Maybe they have like 3 copies of the Ice Rider VMAX or only 2. I'm not too sure honestly. And like 1 of the Vstar. I would prefer playing 2 copies of each, right? I think it would be smarter to play 2 copies of each. And that means you can either switch between the 2 attackers or play both and then use one to support the other at some point in the game. You know, switch between 2 strategies. So a lot of decks right now play Vstar in addition to their VMAX decks. They have Hisuian Decidueye, for example, for Machamp VMAX. They have maybe Hisuian Typhlosion with Shadow Rider. Now we have Palkia Vstar for Ice Rider decks. And I would recommend playing 2 copies just because if you have an additional attacker, you can actually match up. You can stand a good chance winning against a 1 prize deck with your Vstar because it has a lot of HP. Your opponent actually needs to do a lot of damage just to kill for 2 prize, whereas you can actually collect 1 prize over and over easily, 1 turn at a time with your Subspace Swell. You get to do a lot of damage with that attack for only 2 energies. You get to play Melanie for your next attacker as well. Star Portal for your Greninja to collect extra prizes using Moonlight Shuriken. So this is actually a powerful deck if you play enough of the right cards in the same deck. So obviously, play smart. Don't actually put only 1 copy of the Palkia because that is actually focusing more on the VMAX. If you focus too much on the VMAX, your opponent only needs 2 VMAX knockouts to win the game. And that's actually putting yourself in much more dangerous waters because, you know, you actually are forced to attack with nothing but your Ice Rider. If you get your Palkia prized, stuck in the prize, you don't have Peonia to get it out. If it's the evolution that got prized, Heavy Ball is not going to work. So that's why I recommend to play 2 copies. They did Melanie on the Ice Rider having the 3rd energy attached. If they have the switch though, they could have done Hydro Break on the last turn. Because Palkia has an energy already attached. That means they got 3 energies for the basic Pokemon to attack. And if they do Hydro Break with the Palkia, we actually need to kill 2 more Pokemons to win the game, because we need 3 more prizes. We don't have a boss, and that means we can't actually target the VMAX anymore. So if they have that one switch though, I think we would be done for. But I think they used up the escape rope early. They already used the escape rope early in the game, and I don't think they have any more switches. We discarded maybe, and I think we discarded the switch as well with the Misfortune Sister. Pretty sure we discarded one for this game. So that was pretty lucky. They don't have enough switch cards, and we got a knockout with our Jumpluff doing 250 damage with Gravdrop, because they actually kept the energies, which is quite depressing, because, you know, it's kind of like conceding the game, because they could have discarded the energy with the Max Lance, but they chose to keep it. That means we got 160 damage with our Gravdrop, plus 90 more from Mawile's Tempting Tune on the last turn. We actually are doing 250 raw damage with the first strike, and then we get to strike a second time. That means we are doing 500 damage with Gravdrop. Jumpluff is doing 500 for only 2 energies with the tool card attached. Against a VMAX, against anything, we get to kill for 500 damage, a V-Union even, a big 3 prize attacker. So that's the power of Jumpluff with Mawile. We get to use that power combo for this game, and we actually get to showcase it against Ice Rider. It's a little bit depressing that they actually chose to, you know, not discard their energy, because when they could have done it much earlier as well. Because if they discard it, we can't actually do the knockout that easily. We are forced to play the choice belt and do a, you know, only 150, because otherwise we're only doing 300 damage with spinning attack. We need either Leon or the choice belt, but since we already done the damage on our last turn, we already hit it for 120 with our first Jumpluff. With our second one, my bad, our second copy, we did 120 damage before attacking for the knockout. That means that's enough to knock it out. 300 is enough to collect the knockout. So we're up against a Reggie deck now, and we have our Temple of Sinnoh early in the game. We only are playing 1 copy. I think this list for this game, we actually are doing 2 copies of Sinnoh. So as I said earlier, when I first built this deck, this combo around Mawile and Jumpluff, I was kind of focusing on control part of the deck than the knockout. Eventually, I decided to add more scrolls, more choice belt Leon to make it powerful. You know, to give it a damage edge, right? To give it the potential to collect prizes for the win, rather than stalling until our opponent decks out, or until our opponent cannot attack, and we eventually get extra turns to do more strikes with Jumpluff to collect the prize for the win. So it would be better just to add more draw support as well, because we don't actually have Bruno initially when we started off. Only 3 Cinccino, 1 Marnie, no Brunos. I don't think we have a Marnie even. We only have Avery for the draw. Misfortune Sister, I think we have 3 copies. And then Radiant Venusaur, Oranguru. We even have an Oranguru just to put Jumpluff at the top deck. And then if we put Jumpluff back into the deck, we actually get to play Skiploom's ability. That's the good thing about Oranguru, but it's not doing anything else though. I would rather play more rods than do the Oranguru, because you are you know, wasting that bench spot for just to evolve your Skiploom, which I don't think is worth it. You would fare better playing more Cinccinos on the bench than that Oranguru, which is only helping you swap the top card of the deck. If you don't shuffle the deck, you're gonna get back the same card on the next turn, which is just ridiculous. And if you're drawing with Venusaur as well, Oranguru doesn't really work that well, because you're drawing it back into the deck. Unless if you are evolving this turn with your Skiploom, then Oranguru would help only for that minor particular case. Otherwise, it's not doing anything. That's why we decided to just cut it. We got Avery and Temple of Sinnoh. We just need to play the Misfortune Sister at some point to discard. I think we discarded the super effective glass, which really isn't doing much, because they don't need it against a 1 price. We did our sister on the last turn actually. So we got a lot of control cards for this list, and we played them early as well. Okay, here comes another basic. Ilaki is gonna help them kill the Hoppip, so we better be benching the Menifee soon. If we don't bench the Menifee, they can actually draw extra prizes by killing the Hoppip. So we have to be extra careful. Menifee is super important. And I don't think they have the final copy of the Reggie. What's it again? It's a Reggie Steel. And they just passed the turn. Should we save the Avery for the next turn? I think it would be wiser to save for later, because we are only discarding one Pokemon right now. I don't think it's worth playing for the disruption that early. So I think we chose to kept it. We're gonna attach the Lightning Energy and then Tempting Trap. Force them to waste their Scoop Up Nets. If they don't play the Scoop Up Net, we actually got our knockout on the next turn. 60 damage is not enough even with the weakness. So Tempting Trap is gonna help us not only kill the Regirock on the next turn, but also damage one of their Pokemon by 60. If they retreat though or switch on the next turn, we can't actually do a boss anymore because we are not playing any copy in this deck. No bosses at all, even in the very first build of this list. Temple of Sinnoh is doing a lot though, but they should be playing a lot of stadium cards, right? I mean, Reggie deck should be playing either Pokestop or Stormy Mountain, Jubilife Village. I don't think Jubilife Village is good, honestly, because you should be playing your Regidrago's ability to draw cards and more supporter, I guess. Research, Marnie, Bruno, Cynthia. And they just did an escape rope, which is gonna erase Mawile's effect completely, and now they have Reggie Ice in the active, attaching a powerful energy. Okay, Reggie Gate for the steal, and now they got it. They got the full team. We're just gonna play Avery at just the right time. There we go. We're gonna evolve the Jumpluff. I never really know what to do if you have a Jumpluff in your hand and you can evolve. Sometimes it's better just to use the ability so that you get, a better chance of drawing other cards in the deck, as opposed to if you have an extra Jumpluff in the deck, you may just draw it back with your Avery. I would rather just use the ability and then draw something else with my Cinccino Avery than, getting an extra Jumpluff in my hand with the draw. We would get an extra Jumpluff in the hand anyways, but might as well just reduce cards from the deck so we get a higher chance of getting other supporter cards, for the extra control, or even to help us draw more with Bruno or Marnie. Crushing Hammer, get our, maybe Raihan Scroll, some other cards that is way more valuable than the Jumpluff. Because for some reason, Jumpluff loves to show up in your hand. It just loves to show up in your hand. That's why we need some cards, some way to shove it back into the deck. Either Marnie, Bruno, or extra copies of Rods. You can discard it with your Make Do and then rod it back into the deck. But I think it would be a waste if you do that, because you need... I don't think you need that many Jumpluff though if you're up against a V deck. If they play Vstar VMAXs, you just need like three Jumpluffs in play, unless if they boss you. If they boss and knock out your Jumpluff, you may need a lot more Rods than you expect. So we have one carrier and two Rods to basically revive two Jumpluffs into play. We can play Spinning Attack or Gravdrop 5 times, essentially. Against Vstar, we would have a high chance of winning. against one price decks, we would need to rely, as I keep saying, on some other cards. Our Avery, Temple of Sinnoh, Crushing Hammer, to stop them from, to basically disrupt our opponent enough for us to race past them in terms of, you know, price draw. We can actually do more damage over and over. For only one energy we can attack already, whereas we can, you know, while our opponent is struggling to get their energy cards, to get their, you know, item switches, to get past our disruption. Temple of Sinnoh, quite a good card to play. If they do single strike, rapid strike, is gonna help them, is gonna help us, you know, block them from using any attack, because single strike is actually a substitute for fighting or darkness, and if they need those types, they cannot actually attack at all. So they actually did a basic energy attachment this turn, helping Umbreon do mean look, which is not quite enough to kill off the Hoppip, because single strike energy would have done the knockout, but thanks to Temple of Sinnoh, Hoppip survives, because that energy is not helping it do 20 more damage. It's not doing any extra effects. It's only acting as a colorless energy. So thank God for Temple of Sinnoh. And we actually played an Avery early in the game again, which is grand. We're gonna level ball for another Skiploom, or maybe a Cinccino. Should we do the Avery first? We're gonna do the Cinccino, obviously. Okay. They have a Crobat, but they are still forced to discard one of the Pokemon on the bench. Either Gengar, Houndour. I don't think they're gonna discard the Houndour. So either the Gengar or the Hisuian Zoroark. They are actually playing Zoroark for this list. Zoroark with Umbreon to drag any Pokemon into the active, with Dark Signal, and then Galar Mine to trap them there, using the attack to knock it out on your opponent's next turn. So a free energy attack, allowing you to knock out your opponent's active Pokemon if they don't switch, retreat, evolve, or erase the effect. You know, they can actually scoop it up as well, or play attacks that shuffle that Pokemon back into the deck. Whatever they do, they just need to get that Pokemon away from the active or back into the deck, into the hand. So I think I'm just gonna end the voice right here and leave you guys to focus on the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this new combo. Today we're featuring the new Mawile from Lost Origin with a tempting trap attack, forcing the defending Pokemon to take 90 more damage on your next turn and preventing it from retreating on your opponent's next turn. That means if they don't switch or evolve the Pokemon, you actually get to do 90 more damage with your Jumpluff. You get to double the damage boost as well with your Fluffy Barrage. That means you get 180 extra damage. If you play Choice Belt and Leon, you get to kill a VMAX with one hit, or even a Gudra Vstar. So we also are playing our Cinccino for the draw spot. Radiant Venusaur helps us draw early in the game as well. We have one Scoop of Net and one Air Balloon for the switch. Raihan, Scroll of Disguise to help us collect extra knockouts early. If we don't get to play our Mawile, we get our safety. We get the Scroll as our safety, helping us do 50 extra damage for each energy attached to our opponent's active Pokemon. And we also have our Misfortune Sister, Avery, Crushing Hammer, and Temple of Sinnoh to help us disrupt our opponent as much as we can. Control, give us an extra dimension to this deck, extra control dimension, helping us disrupt our opponent and slow them down until we can use our strategy, use Mawile to trap them in the active, because Misfortune Sister is going to help you discard their switch cards, and that actually helps you trap them in the active while preparing for your knockout on the next turn using either your spinning attack or Gravdrop. So that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Have a great day and bye for now, lovely people. Enjoy your life.
We're good?